Welcome to Hero Villains. Who do you think will win in a clash between Graviton and Iceman? A clash between the two ultimate atomic and icy forces. Graviton, whose real name is Franklin Hall, is a genius physicist who accidentally merged his body with subatomic particles called gravitons, allowing him to control gravity on an extremely large scale. Graviton's abilities go beyond just lifting objects or suppressing opponents with gravity. He can also distort space, create protective force fields, fly freely, and even control entire areas like a god of gravity. Iceman, or Bobby Drake, is an Omega-level mutant who possesses the ability to control his body temperature and the surrounding environment to create, manipulate, and completely transform into ice. But Iceman's powers go far beyond the image of a superhero freezing his enemies. He can recreate himself from water molecules, create ice clones with independent consciousness, freeze entire bodies of enemies from the inside, and easily cover cities in massive ice. When properly harnessed, Iceman can manipulate the existence of water in all its forms, a power that can reshape both climate and life. Before we dive into the analysis, please hit the subscribe button, and remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you very much. Franklin Hall was born in the Arctic region of Alberta, Canada, where the harsh climate tempered his will and resilience from an early age. He showed exceptional intelligence, especially in the natural sciences. His passion for quantum physics and subatomic mechanics led him to become one of the leading scientists at a private research institute nestled in the Canadian Rockies, a place where only the brightest minds could set foot. In a high-risk experiment to study the interactions of gravitons and the possibility of teleportation, Hall attempted to synchronize a graviton matrix field to create a teleportation effect. However, this delicate adjustment pushed the system beyond its limits. The resulting energy loss caused a violent explosion, destroying the entire experimental apparatus along with two nearby particle accelerators, created a region of atomic chaos, where space, time, and matter were bent to their limits. In that moment, the molecules in his body disintegrated and recombined with subatomic gravitons. From that seemingly fateful accident, Franklin Hall emerged with an extraordinary ability, controlling gravity with his own will. At first, Franklin Hall kept his newly discovered power a secret. He feared that if the world found out, they would look at him with horror, as if he were something out of place and scary. His belief in society's acceptance gradually wavered. Although he tried to hide his abilities, the increasing mental pressure caused him to succumb to his own insecurities. Soon, Hall stopped hiding. He began using his ability to control gravity to achieve whatever he desired, regardless of the consequences. With his superior intelligence and creativity, he designed a costume with a complex style and symbolized absolute power. From here, the name Graviton was officially born, representing a person who had completely abandoned moral constraints. Graviton continued to delve into physics, to expand the limits of his power. While everything seemed to be going in the right direction, an unexpected incident occurred. Joe, a former colleague who had been attached to Hall, sent an emergency signal to the Avengers. The superhero team immediately responded, but when they arrived, Graviton had lifted the entire research facility into the air, suspended at a height of thousands of feet. He declared that he would punish Joe by crushing him under the terrible weight of his own body. The scene was far beyond the Avengers' ability to intervene, rushing into battle, but were overwhelmed by Graviton's overwhelming power. In a moment, only Iron Man and Thor remained standing, confronting the one who was manipulating the gravity of an entire region of the sky. Graviton was fooled by an elaborate scheme. His enemies in the shadows created a false scenario, making him believe that the woman he loved had committed suicide because she could not accept what he had done. In the chaos, the entire complex was compressed into a giant sphere that was spinning like a meteor. Thor did not hesitate, using his hammer of thunder to push the sphere straight into the Hudson River, taking with it all traces of Graviton. However, Hall did not die. He survived the event, but his body was severely transformed. For a short time, he assumed a giant form with the density of a black hole. His power not only increased exponentially, but also became unstable, leading to a fierce battle with the Thing and Black Bolt. During the Acts of Vengeance event, Kingpin approached Graviton with an offer he couldn't refuse: take down Spider-Man. They first met in Amazing Spider-Man number 326. Graviton opened the door by intercepting a government response team approaching by helicopter. Graviton and Spider-Man clashed again in Amazing Spider-Man number 329. This time, Graviton was informed that Spider-Man was still alive. Although the team that hired him had disbanded, his feud with Spider-Man was never over. Graviton was impenetrable to normal vision, as he had the ability to manipulate the gravity around his body at will. Captain America could barely lift his familiar shield, as its mass and weight had been adjusted. Not only can Graviton make himself hundreds of times denser, but he also possesses an invisible gravitational shield that surrounds him, making him immune to many types of attacks, both physical and energy. Even Thor, with his immense strength and powerful hammer, has been stopped when facing this defense. Graviton has lifted an entire city off the ground, holding it suspended in midair like a toy on a string. The surrounding enemies are lifted up, struggling helplessly, completely under his control. With just a little concentration, Graviton can adjust the direction of the force field, tearing large chunks of the Earth's surface apart and sending them floating like rocks in space. However, despite his near-godly power, Graviton does have some serious weaknesses. He is still human at heart. Attacks that are not affected by gravity, such as energy, radiation, toxic gases, or biological viruses, can harm him. If thrust into the vacuum of space, where gravity does not naturally exist, Graviton loses his ability to manipulate and becomes virtually powerless. With enough concentration, Graviton can reshape entire landscapes, destroy structures, and cause entire countries to collapse with a single wave of his hand. Graviton is so powerful that he can fight Vision, Scarlet Witch, Captain America, Wasp, Iron Man, and Beast, who is pinned to a rock by him while he plans his next move. Even when Thor and Black Panther show up to help, he still has the upper hand until he is distracted and the Avengers are defeated. Graviton nearly defeats the West Coast Avengers, but Tigra breaks through his defenses and defeats him in a very stealthy manner. He was one of the key supervillains in the Raft breakout, which led to the formation of the New Avengers and recently fought the Avengers Unity division. Graviton actually injured Spider-Man quite badly. Hulk's strength is tied to his emotional state, and is theoretically limitless. However, the day was saved when Hulk showed up and was able to duel Graviton, although he later used his full strength on Hulk. After a brief struggle, Graviton was eventually defeated by Thor with a God Blast, after being weakened by the combined efforts of Iron Man, Hulk, Ant-Man, and Wasp. Graviton is usually only defeated by his own insanity. I really hope you subscribe to the channel, it helps us a lot, and moreover, you will get to see great videos every day. You are the best. Thank you very much. Robert Bobby Louis Drake was born in Floral Park, Long Island, New York, to a family with a mixed Jewish and Catholic religious background. His parents, William and Madeline Drake, were strict, principled, and extremely cautious. From an early age, Bobby felt that there was something different about him. Deep in his mind, he always had a vague fear. That insecurity became a reality when one day, while swimming with his friends, he panicked and accidentally froze the entire pool in an instant. That was the first time Bobby's mutant ability manifested. From that moment on, his family lived in absolute anxiety and vigilance, because if anyone discovered this secret, their lives would be turned upside down, and Bobby himself could face danger. The situation became more tense after his 16th birthday. While walking with his girlfriend Judy Harmon, the two are suddenly attacked by a group of thugs led by Rocky Beasley. Cornered and left with no other choice, Bobby is forced to unleash his ice powers, freezing the entire group in an instant. However, this act of self-defense attracts unwanted attention. Cyclops, another mutant, quickly arrives on the scene. He offers Bobby to leave his current life and join a team that he already belongs to. However, too scared and not enough trust, Bobby refuses. The argument quickly turns into a conflict as the two engage in a fight. The crowd gathers, panic and chaos causing the situation to spiral out of control. Fortunately, Professor Charles Xavier arrives in time. With his superior telepathic abilities, he intervenes by erasing all memories of everyone present that day, including Bobby's family and friends, to protect his identity and future. Bobby made a decision that changed his life. He said goodbye to his parents, officially leaving the family circle to enter a new chapter with the X-Men, the pioneering mutant team fighting for equality and protecting the world from dark forces. Initially, when Bobby Drake activated his mutant power and transformed into Iceman, his body appeared as soft, white snow, looking like a person completely covered in a thick layer of snow powder. That form made it difficult for him to control his strength and vulnerable in combat. However, with Cyclops' patient guidance and intensive combat training at the Xavier Institute, Bobby gradually understood how to operate the cold energy inside him. He learned how to regulate his body temperature, control the molecular structure of water, and from there transform from fragile snow to a solid, sparkling, crystal-like ice state. This is the most characteristic and famous form of Iceman, an ice warrior who can create ice pillars and shield. As one of the 5 founding members of the X-Men, Bobby fought alongside Beast, Angel, Cyclops, and Marvel Girl in the early days of the war against superhuman threats. They faced and fought a series of dangerous forces capable of destroying an entire city. These were tense confrontations with Magneto, the magnetic field controller, surprise attacks from Vanisher and Blob, or breathtaking confrontations with the overwhelming power of Juggernaut. In addition, they had to fight giant robot armies like the Sentinels, confront the Brotherhood of supervillains with extreme ideals, and prevent threats from opponents like Unus, Locust, Grotesque, Lucifer, Sauron, Mimic, or the Living Monolith. Each battle was a harsh challenge, forcing Iceman to constantly develop his skills, be creative in the application of his powers, and mature both mentally and spiritually. Once just a young mutant with the ability to control ice and snow at a basic level, Bobby Drake has now risen to become one of the most powerful and unique Omega-level mutants. Now, he can not only manipulate ice, but also master water in all its states, adjust the temperature of his surroundings at will, and can even transfer his consciousness to different ice structures, allowing him to exist in multiple locations at once. With this ability, Bobby can create giant ice warriors in the form of golems and control them like extensions of himself. He also has the ability to clone himself into multiple ice forms, each copy of which can fight independently. Just a few drops of rain falling on the ground, he can turn them into fierce punches like steel hammers to strike down on his enemies. He once created a giant ice form with destructive power, capable of submerging the entire world in ice if left unchecked. Bobby's mutant ability allows him to restructure water molecules to create any form of ice. He can easily erect massive structures in the middle of cities like the Iceberg towering over Central Park, or create a giant version of himself to confront threats as large as the Hex. He has also stood alone to protect the Earth from solar flares, using the thick ice layer in the stratosphere to regulate and block cosmic heat. Iceman has cooled and frozen the entire Hell dimension, which is generally considered beyond the reach of any superhero. He is not only a veteran member of the X-Men, Iceman is absolutely worthy of being ranked alongside the most powerful superheroes in Marvel history. Robert Drake's powers, which at first glance seem to revolve around the creation of ice, actually have a surprising level of complexity and depth. Many people often underestimate his abilities because of his simple and familiar appearance. However, what he possesses is completely equivalent, even superior to many other high-level superheroes, including the weather-controlling mutant Storm. While Storm affects the environment from the outside, Iceman directly manipulates matter from the molecular level, especially the temperature and structure of water. Mr. Sinister is a genetic genius whose intelligence far surpasses many great minds in the Marvel Universe. He once admitted that, despite possessing scientific knowledge that surpasses Tony Stark in the field of mutations, he still cannot fully understand how Bobby's powers work. Emma Frost, a mutant with high-level telepathic abilities, temporarily took over Bobby's body. During that short time, she used his powers in ways he had never thought of. Emma not only completely transformed Bobby's body into liquid form, but also moved through the water network, teleporting to distant locations without physically moving. However, even she, one of the most talented mind controllers, could not fully tap into his true potential. A coastal city is in chaos as unusual gravity phenomena continue to occur. The tall buildings are tilted to one side as if they are about to collapse. Graviton steps into the center of the city, with a calm demeanor and a cold gaze, as if everything is in the palm of his hand. He controls the gravity around him with absolute finesse. Every object within a radius of hundreds of meters is floating, twisting as if falling into a distorted space that is completely out of the laws of physics. In the middle of the turbulent ocean, a long strip of ice rises from the water, stretching straight towards the shore like a giant bridge. Iceman appears, walking on the ice path he just created, the ice spreading under his feet with every step. Not choosing to confront directly, he deploys a defensive tactic by creating a thick armor of solid ice that covers his entire body. Substitutes created from sharp ice shapes dart out in all directions like decoys, while he hides behind the cold fog that covers the city. Bobby began to freeze the air around the core. The moisture particles cooled rapidly, making the environment dense and heavy. The ground cracked as the ice ate away, at the area's graviton control. Even the enemy's energy field began to slow, paralyze, as the ice weakened the interaction between space and gravity. Graviton tried to weaponize everything around him, lifting cars off the ground and flinging them like meteors in all directions. The entire space shook as if the ground was being bent into a ribbon, but Iceman was undeterred. He continued to freeze every point of contact between Graviton and the environment, layer upon layer of icy ice, slowing and weakening his opponent's ability to sense gravity. The sky was pitch black, and Graviton reached out into the depths of space, pulling the moon closer to Earth's orbit with a super gravitational field. The enormous gravitational force began to affect the natural structure of the planet, creating chaotic energy flows, turning gravity into an invisible vortex that twisted space and time. Iceman countered with cold, terrifying precision. He exploited the humidity in the atmosphere, turning every drop of water in the air into sharp ice crystals. A giant ice pillar rose from the ground, reaching straight into the sky like an ice spear piercing the troposphere. As the cold energy spread, the entire surrounding climate froze. All heat movement was slowed. Energy transmission was hindered, causing Graviton's artificial gravitational field to begin to malfunction. Graviton staggered as the gravity he controlled began to fluctuate erratically. The energy particles he created became unstable, gradually disintegrating as they could no longer maintain their connection in the extremely low temperature environment. The initial confidence slowly disappeared, replaced by a look of panic as he realized the world around him was freezing from the core. Iceman entered the Omega state, where he no longer existed as a physical form but became part of the atmosphere. He merged with the vapor, hiding in every moisture particle, seeping through every air molecule without being detected or attacked. Graviton was locked in a block of super cold ice where the temperature was close to absolute zero. No vibrations existed, no energy flow could be transmitted. Everything stopped in absolute silence. In that space, time almost froze. Graviton was sealed, completely immobile, like a shooting star trapped in the eternal ice of the cosmic ocean. The winner is Iceman. I hope you enjoyed this fight. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow me if you like. That's it for today's video. Thank you very much.